Hey folks, I trust you had a thankful, grateful Thanksgiving Day. We got back kind of late last night. I don't know when you're going to be seeing this, but it is the day after Thanksgiving. We come home to a bad inverter. I don't know, it was working. We were taking and making some changes in there last night. I wanted to be able to shut the inverter off from the inside, and it was as simple as drilling a hole. I drilled a hole, poly-rich in, turned off the inverter, it wouldn't turn back on. I don't know. So now I'm playing whack-a-mole again. It's one of my new favorite terms, Homestead whack-a-mole. I have got to go in there, take that inverter out. I do have some backups, but they're not as big. I've got some 400 watt inverters that will run electronics. It's not going to run electronics, lights, and everything. I don't even know if it'll run the internet box. The name of it escapes me. Router. I don't know if it'll run the router right now. The 400 watts, they're not that. They don't have that big a surge. I think ours have like an 800 watt surge, which is what this one was 800 watt with a 1600 watt surge, or 1600 watt peak. So I'm going to take it out. I'm going to see what's wrong with it. It may be the switch. It may be a fuse. I don't know. It's kind of in a tight place. So after I get it out, I'll take and show you guys. I'll leave it out here where I can kind of work with it, look at it, inspect it, see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. It may just be junk. I don't know how old it was when we got it. A guy at an RV park, I helped him set up his satellite. He gave it to me. It was new in the box. I don't know. It could be really old. It just could be a fuse. It could be whatever. I don't know. But I'm going to get with it, get it off the wall, and look at it, see what we can do. Hopefully it's just a blown fuse or switch. I was wanting to wire a switch up on the inside anyway to turn it off and on. Maybe this is my time to do that. But I've got chicken coops to build. I've got fences to mend. I've got just a whole lot of things to do, but I'm gonna go whack-a-mole. Come along with me. It's kind of in a tight spot in here, and can't really work on it. The everyday challenges of homesteading and the reality of where we live is that you've got to constantly be able to think on the fly and be able to be a problem solver. And just the idea of maintenance, I think, is what gets most folks when they try homesteading and they don't make it. You've got ongoing projects, you've got maintenance on those ongoing projects because something tears up. You have equipment failures, you have all these things that you have to deal with, and if you're not used to living that kind of lifestyle, well, you can get burnt out pretty quick. And that's where I think a lot of people are at when they quit homesteading, is they're just burnt out. There's no way I would try to do this at 65, and I know people are doing it. It's just one of those things where, you know, you don't have the time and you don't have the energy. We're working off the homestead, trying to build a homestead, and then we have maintenance. So any new projects, which we really need, I've got a shed down there all under tarps, needs to be built. I've got all manner of things that need to happen, but I can't get to it. I always refer to my old adage, and I may have used it on a video before. Muy mañanas, many tomorrows. I'm gonna get this out of here, see what's wrong with it. So I would not suggest doing this at home, but I took this plate off and this switch is bad. So I took my screwdriver, touched it across the two, and voila, it's working. So it's just a bad switch. So now I have to figure out a switch and not get electrocuted in the process. I really don't want to take everything apart. This switch just clips in, so I think I can clip it out, and I can pull these two wires out and maybe wire me up a switch inside the camper. So I've got all this stuff here. I got a switch. I've got to get this out of here, pull these wires out, not touch them to the side, and hopefully I can solder this all together. I found out the switch is just a little sketchy when I grabbed a hold of it. Now all of a sudden it wants to work. When I grab it, I don't know. It's really sketchy. This is going to take some tinkering. I think I'm going to take this plate off, which is going to take me just a little while. So now I got the plate off, I can actually reach in here and get electrocuted. Whatever you do, don't try this at home, folks. You really don't want to pull those wires loose. They are really, really small. And when you're working on the inside of a board or the inside of an electrical component, it is so easy to pull solders loose or to pull something loose that you really don't want to, and all you're trying to do is just strip a wire. And I don't want to touch nothing that might burn something out. I feel like I need a pair of tweezers in here. So I got these two wires here that I have to wire together, and like I said, it's not a very big connection. That is a very small connection, and I have quite the big wire. I have quite the big wire here to solder into it, but that's all I got. So just gonna have to go with it. So now I've got to figure out how I'm gonna put this together. This is really stiff copper. That looks to be aluminum. And I really don't know what to do with it, really. It's so small. I'm gonna try to put this up in between them. And twist it around them. And I've still got this hooked to the battery, by the way. So I'm having to do everything really, really easy. So now I'm going to attempt to solder that. I don't want to drop no solder down in the board or anywhere. Yeah, that pretty well took care of. Cut section of this heat shrink. So now that it's going to be moving around a whole lot and everything, I'm going to put this heat shrink on there, and it will cause it to be a little tougher so it doesn't come apart as easy, a little bit more rigid. Those little wires will break, and if they don't have something on them like this, they'll pull right out. Now, just got to strip this wire and add a piece on it. I think I just need about half of this one, and seeing how it is a switch wire, it can both be red, won't hurt anything. Let's strip this one. My hope is I ain't pulled anything loose. It's very easy to do. And I wouldn't suggest, if you don't know what you're doing, to take an inverter apart like this. I have failed many times working on electronics. I won't lie to you. I've pulled wires loose, I've pulled circuit boards, I've broke circuit boards, and try as I might, get them to work again. I'm not scared to. I'm not scared to do it, but I know the inherent risks of it. The inherent risk is you could blow something up, particularly since I still got this one connected to power. There'll be a lot of people out there, that's not smart. But I have to test it, and I have to make sure that it's going to work, and I have to work on it while I do that. Cold day. If I touch these two, I should have lights action. We're good to go. All right. So now I can, just so I don't have any shorts and stuff going on, I'm just going, hard as it was to undo those, cut that off for now. I can feed these through here. And I can put this plug back on this base plate. Some things you can take off
putting them back on can be hard. Okay. So everything back on there. Just put these little old screws back on there. This thing all tidied up. It's gonna be a minute. Okay, so now we're here in the camper, and I got my 2 wires coming in out of the inverter. I'm going to mount this switch straight up and down right here. So I'm going to make a rough little drawing of it. I'm going to be using this tool right here to cut this out because I don't like cutting myself. What I've got to do to make the power work is connect these 2 ends right here. Now this won't be as long once I connect them to the switch, but I should have power when I connect these 2. You should hear the inverter kick on. So, good to go. Cut this out. Cut off about yay much and strip these. Each end here. Okay. I actually have some ends to put on this. Go. If you can't tell, I have a little bit of a hard time with small bolts and screws. I just can't seem to hang on to them at all. Sometimes I can't hang on to large ones. Turn it on. The switch is no good. Gotta go get another switch. Luckily, I have a lot of switches, but this one seems to be good. You buy parts and you buy pieces and you should be good, and then you get home and something like that happens and you're like, well, why is that? Well, I don't know. And something should work and it don't. Kind of gets on my nerves. Gets on anybody else's, but it gets on mine. Particularly when you live 2 hours from anywhere where you can get some of this stuff. Now we have a inverter running. We have a switch. Just take and keep that running. I gotta get a couple screws, mount this in the wall, and put the faceplate on it. Okay, so I got my switch in, and it doesn't really want to fit yet, but I'm gonna make it fit. There's that. And this. Don't know if this is going to work or not. We're going to try. All I had up here was this tool. I had to go all the way back down to my van or out to the truck, and anymore I'm only good for about one project. So now we can switch our inverter off from in here, which we couldn't do before. A little bit more convenience. So an inconvenience turned into a convenience. I'm just glad the inverter still is working. As you've seen, I was using that little Dremel tool. Worked really good. There we have it. Things flip it off and on. Got a faceplate on it, looks a little nicer. And when it's cold outside, I don't have to go out and turn it off before I go to bed. Alright guys, that's going to finish up this episode of Homestead Whack-A-Mole. Got this mole knocked in the head. Unfortunately, I have a bunch more popping their head up. But I'll get to them today, tomorrow, maybe even the next day. It's just the way homestead life is. You just got to keep putting forth the effort, and eventually it'll pay off. Like the good book says, be not weary in well doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. We'll see you later.